You're listening to Well, I Laughed, Part 2 of Untamed, Monkeying Around. My biggest fear is hitting record and then finding out after that I recorded double of just one of our mics.
Is that a thing that could actually happen?
Yeah.
Oh, well, new fear for me too then.
That's why I make us both tap our mics separately.
I legitimately just thought it was like is this thing on? Check. So good to know.
Yep. Nope, it's
amazing.
My stress. Do you want to tell the listeners what our dear friend Lydia just texted us?
Our dear friend Lydia she has a business. She has a couple businesses. And a client right now offered to pay her in stamps, which makes sense if it's like, 1840 and Wells Fargo still uses stagecoaches.
Yeah.
But, it's a pretty virtually based business at this point.
Yeah.
I like to think that if she had agreed to that, the stamps would have come in a stamped envelope.
I like that.
And whose stamp does it come out of? Her stamps or his stamps?
I like to think it's like a Victor Lustig situation where he's like printing off fake stamps and then Lydia finds out when she gets like hundreds of letters back.
You mean when she gets arrested by the federal government for mail fraud?
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's a crime.
Yeah, it's a crime.
You can't defraud the U.S. Postal Service.
Okay.
And you can't win a land war in Asia. But mostly the U.S. Postal Service thing.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
One of our students did The Princess Bride for one of their class projects right now. Yeah.
I see.
But I do have two updates on my day. First, dear listener, the seat warmer in my car today was used for medicinal purposes. That's how I felt after work this Monday. And second, I have a controversial thing to say about the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Specifically the Super Bowl halftime show.
Okay, I was going to say anything else is going to be lost on me.
The Super Bowl halftime show. As a person who lived through the last era of jeans that go below your ankles, those weren't good jeans. And I know that's controversial because everyone loves the jeans. Like, this is actually maybe a controversial opinion. I know. My generation, the millennials, skinny jeans was an exact response to all of our jeans dragging on the floor.
Okay, would you rather...
No, I don't want to wear jeans. I would rather neither jeans.
Okay, so jeans just out. Would you rather have flared jeans or low-waisted jeans? And I know this doesn't necessarily apply to you as much because it's less of a male trend. But
right. I think
like there is a correct answer. I will be offended.
The male version of this, would I rather have like dragging jeans at the bottom?
Yeah.
Or male-styled Christian cross bedazzled jeans on the buttocks. And you're right, I would choose the dragging jeans.
Yeah,
I've never experienced low-waisted jeans before because nothing about my waist is low.
I will like keep jeans and like I had a storage unit, and so sometimes I'll like cycle through clothes or whatever, and so if I like find a pair of jeans, I'm like, oh my God, and I'll bring them back and I'll try them on, and like luckily, a lot of the times they still fit, kind of. But like the part that really
not a universal experience, listener. If you're like, wow, not a universal experience.
I still fit into my prom dress.
Okay, Miss Havisham.
Just kidding. Not as well as I did, but I don't know why I tried it on. I wanted to like hurt myself or something. I was bored. It was COVID.
I'm staring directly into the camera right now. I'm shocked.
The worst part is when you put on a pair of jeans that you remember really loving the fit of, and then you just realize that they're low-waisted, and then it just feels like your pants are falling off all day. I can't do that. Yeah,
nor should you, I feel like, I can tell I'm getting older. I'm like, pants are supposed to cover things. If you want to be a slut, that's for summer, and there's 6 months of the year for that.
Also, there was that one part of the halftime show where I don't remember. It was like when the one guy came on and he had like a big M.
Okay.
I didn't understand the meaning. I'm sure there was a meaning, so stop yelling at me. I'm sure there was a meaning. But the fact was that he was wearing like the biggest, baggiest jeans. And the entire time I was a little toasted and I was just like, they look like cartoon characters. Like the contrast between the two of them right now is just like, they need to be on a buddy comedy.
I love how you, like, I'm sure there was like consultants and rehearsals, and they're like, how do we specifically craft this like iconography to send a message to America? And you're like, whoa, it's a cartoon.
They did a great job on everything else. Everything else I was like, wow. And then I went on X, which was a mistake, because then everyone was like, worst halftime show ever. Of course, Elon Musk's app. And then I went everywhere else, and they were like, I'm really introspective right now.
Yeah, that's like in terms of like controversial opinions around the Super Bowl halftime show. My opinion on jeans is probably the only one.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I'm the target audience for Kendrick Lamar. Like, to be completely honest, I mean, plenty of white guys listen to his music, but there's a bit more to my like flow chart, my Venn diagram than that. I thought it was like otherwise like a perfectly fine halftime show. Heads up, since several of you keep writing into me, I was doing grad school work while watching the Super Bowl. So to all of those who keep writing in being like, I don't know, like Grant, I'm like thinking about doing what you're doing and like going to grad school. Be aware of that. Be aware. This year, no buffalo chicken dip. And a communications essay. So anyways, that's been like the big news in my life.
I was researching this story.
Good.
Yeah.
The day before. That always makes me feel really good, because whenever I'm researching still the day before, I'm like, Maia's never like this.
Oh my God, no. It's been like the last handful of stories that I've been ahead on my game. And now that I'm trying to like tell you the theme early, I have to like, I end up having more of that story put together by the time I start the story that's actually next. And so
got a couple pots on that stove, huh?
Speaking
I just
of
am
next
frantically
themes.
whipping together every single pot I'm doing.
Perfect.
Great.
Amazing.
Next themes.
What's your next theme?
Girl, we're not even onto yours yet.
I know. This is me reminding you so that it's on your mind, so that in like 2 weeks you're like, oh, I should probably think of a theme.
Hey.
No,
hey.
I'm not putting my hand on yours.
Hey.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, well, our weekend was like fine. We ended up getting a really cute, our like local brewery was doing this like membership thing. And so there was only 25 memberships available, and Casey and I got 2 of them. And so now we have a mug on the wall of this brewery, which is very exciting. And it was only like $120 for like the year. So I was like, Casey kept being like, I don't know if it's worth it. And I was like, it's a local business and you're going to gripe about the fact that it's $12 a month to support a brewery that we go to like literally weekly.
Yeah.
Anyway, I convinced him. He like walked over. He's like, I'll walk over with you, but I'm not going to get one. And then I'm like filling out my little sheet. I got number 20. And
ooh, nice.
And then he was like staring at me and I was like, do you want one? Because there's only 4 left. And then he was like, yeah.
If they sold bread, he'd be all over it.
Oh, he would. He would love that. But anyway, I think that was actually Saturday. Friday, Casey and I went to that other brewery nearby because it was like 70 degrees out and I needed to photosynthesize, because of the depressies. And I looked at like find my friends and was like, who's around? And it was just Jacob because Lydia was like in Nebraska or something. And then I was like, I texted Jacob that we were there. And then like we started walking back like literally 2 to 3 hours later.
Nice.
And as I'm walking,
that's a lot of sunning yourself on the rocks time.
Well, then Casey and I started talking and then we ended up getting another beer and whatever. But as we're walking back, I get a text from Jacob that's like, are you still there? I'm on my way. I was like, and so he ended up coming here and Casey got really excited because he's like, we can play Catan. And then he like set up Catan. And then we start playing it. We get like 2 rounds in and we all kind of get up to like refresh drinks and whatever. And Jacob's like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And we're like, okay. And like, we just like do our thing. And then he comes out and he's like, hey team, I'm not feeling so well.
Yep, that's Jacob to a T.
And we were like, oh my God, are you going to die? Like right here, right now? Do you need to like lay down? And then Casey, it was disappointing because we couldn't finish the game.
It was Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Saturday evening, I saw him because I was supposed to go up to the mountains with them.
Yeah.
And then Saturday after our competition tournament was done or whatever, I went home, did I have 2 grad classes going on right now, which is why there's like a doubling of the workload. So I like did an assignment and then laid down on the couch and I was like, I'm not going to the mountains tomorrow.
This is fair.
The train leaves at 7 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like when you work your way back and you acknowledge the fact that it's already 7 p.m., that's not happening. But we went up to Jacob and Lydia's house, and our friends Tom and Tyler were there because they were taking the train in the morning as well. And we watched the show Naked Attraction.
Oh, my God, again.
Okay, you say again. For most of them, it was the first time ever seeing that show. And all I will say is this. If you're like, oh, what's Naked Attraction? And you're Googling it right now, and you're like...
all of you
oh.
at New Year's Eve?
Tyler and Tom went to bed before.
Oh, so they didn't see it.
And
okay.
Jacob walked in. We were like, we're doing this. He goes, okay, cool. And he like stretched out on the floor because there wasn't that many seats left. Instantly
Passed out.
fell asleep.
Yep.
And so, again, if you are Googling Naked Attraction right now and you're like, oh, I know this is going to sound kind of crazy. You have to watch it with a group of people. If you watch it alone, that's a little
weird.
odd. If you watch it with a group of people, it's like a never-ending roundtable discussion about what it is exactly you are seeing on your screen.
You do have to have the right friend group, though, I will say. I can't imagine watching that with Casey's friend group.
That's so true.
Yeah.
we have a pretty close friend group.
Yeah.
So
and
yeah.
you guys are all super chill about a lot of things. We got some fan mail. Would you like to open it?
Sure. I wasn't sure if you were doing
Yeah.
it during this or Patreon.
I'll cut out whatever dead space.
Okay, cool.
Anyway.
Are we saying names of people? Let's be
We can.
unopened.
I would veer towards no. So
Okay.
we had one. I think that one's from Etsy, and this one's from Amazon. This one's just addressed to me.
This one's also just addressed
Was it
to
really?
you. Yes. Are you going first or am I going first?
I don't know. Oh my God.
Wait, what? Oh, that's 100% a book for you.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
100%
Yeah.
a book for you.
It's a book called A Dance with the Devil, a true story of marriage to a psychopath. Oh my God. I'm so excited about this. It says, hi, Maya. Don't show Grant. Don't worry. He won't remember.
Oh, I do remember. And what I remember is I was the first one to get a book from a listener.
It was. And it scared the bejesus out of me because there was usually we get
You should
things.
read it. It's actually pretty fun. Like I get.
Oh, yeah.
I'm doing like basically 2 pages a night right now. Like that's what I have capacity before, but it's nice. Do you want to read the title? Have you read you read the title of the book?
Yes, I did read the title of the book.
So what's in my hand, it's a little pink like netting bag, like smaller, just slightly smaller than an iPhone. And then there's text on it, but I can't read it through the netting. Okay. Looks like Etsy. This is from artwork by the person that sent us this. So I'm not going to say the name out loud unless, should you?
I think that it's sent from the shop. I don't think that's.
Oh,
our
that's probably a
listener's
good
name.
call.
Yeah.
Artwork by Jenny Shellman.
Fun.
And so here you go. And then now I will open up the little tiny box. Ooh, it's a tiny little box.
Tiny little box.
The older I get, like the smaller I want my presents. Like, next thing I'm asking for is a tennis bracelet.
You want something in one of those blue bags?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, from Tiffany's?
That's from Tiffany's. Oh.
I'm now at the point, too, where I'm constantly afraid of my own Hulk strength.
I'm
that
watching
I'm
you
just
try
gonna
and open this. It's really quite
destroy
funny.
Everything I touch. I've just never been graceful. Okay. Oh, shut up. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my
Shut
God.
up.
This one's definitely yours. Go ahead
They're
and
little
read it.
keychains, and it just says a horse girl. It's like a little heart. It's iridescent.
Now, please read the one that I am
Oh
taking.
my God. Raccoon slut.
Crab Rangoon Slut.
Oh my God, this is incredible.
I told you I love small little packages.
Yes. Amazing.
And then you have one more in your hands, yeah?
Yes. So to all of our listeners to the listeners that sent us this, thank you so much. I'm not going to read your names because it stresses me out. But this one is from our friend that we know who sends us tea from this company, Bell Oak.
So excited.
And
Also, like, truly, they're like, please, like, don't send a gift back, anything like that. They are not a paid partnership. We never know when they're going to send stuff, but, like, truly, it's my favorite
like
tea
the best
company in the
tea.
world.
Grant was just thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, because it's getting a little bit warmer, so I'm like, I want to do another, like, fancy gin with, like, a springtime, like, sun tea that I've done with Bolok before.
Yeah.
Sorry, one more thing.
Oh, gosh.
There we go. That has the thing in it. Okay.
I'm just going to throw it. So we got some new iced teas. Or these are filter bags. These are filter bags. Ooh, fancy. Here you go.
Thank you. Please, a sacrifice. Sorry, I hear so much King Julian voice in my classroom all the time.
Good. Oh, these are so well.
Oh wait, it's
so
wrapped. ASMR.
Yeah. Wow, this is very well wrapped too. Grant, are you taking notes?
Yeah, and it turns out I got to ship all my Christmas gifts to New York before I hand them out. Okay, I'm ready to read mine.
Okay.
This is number 128, mullein spices, an exotic blend of bark, roots, spices, and blossoms to infuse cider, wine, and spirits. They don't even know the serendipity. I have a box of Pinot Noir in my fridge right now.
He almost brought it if he didn't need to use his seat warmer for medicinal reasons.
The sweatpants I'm wearing right now, also medicinal purposes.
Oh, we got the same thing.
Oh, did we really?
Amazing.
Nice. Because the wine I have in my fridge could use a little spicing up.
This is
nice.
incredible. I am.
Oh, yeah. Do you feel the box?
Yeah, this is a good box. We should keep this box.
No, I'm not even joking. We absolutely should keep this
I am keeping the box.
Anyways, here you go.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
If we got the same thing, I'm going to keep mine sealed so that way I can travel easier with it, but I am going to give it a smell.
Yeah, give it a good sniff.
Oh, my God, yeah.
That's quite nice.
Oh, and I'm going to bake something.
Ooh.
And then I'm going to put this in wine. And you're not going to hear from me for 48 hours.
Oh, this is so great. Thank you so much.
Honestly, y'all,
God.
what an absolute fun little thing to come into.
I just happened to check I came home a little early from work and was like, well, what do I do? I had to cross the goddamn picket line at King Soopers because I needed a prescription. And that's always so awkward. At my last King Soopers, the entrance was kind of like a funnel. So like you had to pass the people. And so they were kind of stopping people to talk to them.
Right.
This one, they're just standing there glaring at people who walk in. And I had to like, of my own volition, be like, I'm going in for a prescription.
Right.
And the girl was like, smiled and was like, okay. But
You
I was
just got to
like,
only walk out with only that bag.
yes, exactly. The number of people who still were shopping there, I was like, traitors. But I mean,
Oh, I know.
some people don't have a choice, so I can't like judge too harshly. But it was still
I can, and I'm happy to. There's cheaper actual grocery stores in the vicinity.
What grocery store?
Walmart. Like there's two.
What if they have to walk to that King Soopers? Or what if King Soopers
there's
is
one-
the only one that's in walking distance?
Sure, fair, absolutely. Like a modicum of effort. Like RTD.
What if you don't have the time?
You live very close to a central transportation artery in this
I know.
city.
I'm just trying to have the viewpoint of people that live in food deserts.
And as I said to our close friends on Saturday night, I worked so hard during the pandemic to get like at peace with the world. And I can feel myself getting meaner in like recent years, but I'm much more justified.
Fair. I feel good about my anger.
I walked into a Safeway in Capitol Hill on Super Bowl Sunday with the entire city of Denver and managed to get out just fine. I did accidentally buy dried fruit that had probiotics infused into it, and that was an upset stomach discovery later, but that's fine.
Good.
I've now shared too much with them for this episode. Any news from you?
Well, I was going to ask you a question. So we released a listener survey.
Yeah.
And I've been obsessively looking at the results because that's who I am as a person. I did pretty good not looking at them as much over the weekend, though. But do you want to guess what your top episodes are?
No, I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't feel like I have a pulse on that at all.
What if you had to pick your favorite episodes? What would you pick?
Well, there's always recency bias, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think the Cheese Cave episode, super fun. I think Mary Shelley, Casa Bonita are some of my earlier ones that I'm really proud of. The Victor Hugo one was actually so much fun. And then, of course, there's the, like, investigative journalist reality winner episode. And so those are, I think I listed 4 or 5 right there.
Your top are In no particular order because I'm just scrolling down. The Pink Palace.
Yep.
So yeah,
Casa
Bonita. Out on a Limb. That was a big one.
Right. I kind of forget about that story. It was such a fever dream. Okay.
Out on a Limb. Devil's Hole.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, we've just kind of done like a lot of episodes at this point. I think you and I have both done like close to 40.
A lot. And then Mom Jeans.
Oh, yeah.
And
Mom Jean's great.
the doctor is in. So Dr. Ruth.
Oh, yes.
You're bad at this.
I'm like, I'm fortunate enough to live such a full life, and I don't live with regret as a companion, and so I just kind of never think about the past.
So what ones did you list that I didn't list?
4 of the 5.
Yeah.
Victor Hugo. Mary Shelley. Cheese Caves.
Right. That one did get a lot of votes, but it's not one at the top.
I forget all about Devil's Hole. I do actually on a pretty regular basis, whenever I see someone get engaged, even if it's not factually accurate, I say, it was his second wife. Okay, so then what was your list?
Oh, I don't even know. My list of favorites, QAnon, which I'm finding out from the results of this survey, people were like very split on.
Can't shock you.
It wasn't that anyone was like didn't like the content. It was like I couldn't listen to it because it was upsetting.
Right.
And fair enough.
Right.
Fair enough. It did its job. Michael Malloy.
The whole reason why we're here now.
Honest to God. Michael Malloy. I'm trying to think. Patty Hearst, maybe. Lacey Peterson. I'm forgetting. I don't know what else I did.
So many of yours are like true crime, and I'm just like the last.
Dialog Pass.
Sure,
there it is.
And mine's just the last 7 minutes of the local news, like a local interest story. And to conclude tonight's program, we bring you to some strange little fish out in the desert, right? Or to conclude tonight's program, we remember America's beloved sex therapist, Dr. Ruth. Meanwhile, you're like, this crime was committed.
Okay, so my favorites were, Dyatlov Pass, Houdini. Houdini.
I actually think about that one a lot, too.
I do, too. I'm trying to look. I didn't highlight Michael Malloy, yep. Lee's episode. A lot of you guys liked Lee's episode or hated
Lee's
it.
episode.
Actually, that one was another split one.
It was the first time Lee and I had ever really had a conversation together.
Yeah.
And the way our brains synced up in an unproductive way.
Very unproductive. Very unproductive. Night at the Museum is another one people liked from you. Friends in Strange Places.
The Gardner Museum, right? We get a lot of Gardner Museum content. And then Friends in Weird Places.
Do you not remember that one? Jeff the Talking Mongoose.
Oh, right.
That was another big one I forgot about.
They made a whole movie about it, and I watched it with my family over winter break, and I was a little bored by it because I already knew all of the details.
Oh, Reality Winner is another top one, but not like at the top. QAnon. Y'all did not like the P. Diddy episode. Or my Christmas episode. I'm sorry, guys. This is why I can't have this data right now. What I was going to say is that whatever your favorite episode that wasn't listed, I want you to sell it to them.
What?
You heard me.
No, because I don't remember most of the details off the top of my head.
But why do you like it? Why do you remember it?
Victor Hugo, because of the orange Kirsch. Like that alone. Mary Shelley was the first time I felt like this podcast gave me the opportunity to really dive deep and explore something. So that's just probably more of like a personal like feels around like how I developed it.
Right.
And the other ones I feel like are kind of obvious, right? Like Dr. Ruth and Cheese Caves. Like we got a chance to eat a lot. I actually learned so much about American farm subsidies.
That's true.
That has altered the way I coach debate when we talk about some topics. I guess if I'd have to pitch anything to you guys, especially in this time of doom and gloom, I would pitch to you the Victor Hugo episode. Only because
it's so silly.
In a moment where everything feels so serious, I remind you that even the silliest people you can imagine can leave an impactful lesson for us to unpack years later. Like Les Mis is absolutely political, and the man who wrote it lived about as close to as a happy and jolly life as possible.
It's a sad musical.
Yeah, which is so funny because his life was full of like women and drunkenness.
Yeah.
There's a marker on a mountain in southern France where this man was conceived. That's how good of a time he was. And so I think we all need to laugh. And it's, I think, also impactful to know that that laugh does not mean you are abandoning your like civic duties, but instead like just remembering why you have that duty in the first place. If I had to pitch it.
No, I love that.
I love it. What about you? Am I supposed to, is this a date?
No,
Am I asking, and what about you?
What about you?
What's
No.
your favorite color?
I was gonna like say like what's your unsung hero, and then have you do, and then I didn't say that. But do you have those episodes that like someone tells you and you're like, oh shit, I covered that. The Red Barn murder.
Oh yeah.
That one was wild, and also on it, like it's a murder, obviously, but it's like a like 1700s murder, and it's like the man in it is just like your classic like today white man thinks he can get away with anything, and it's just so funny how he just like tries to play it off and act like everything's normal, and then gets another wife.
I think about that every time I watch old-timey movies, and I'm like, man, 12 Miles was a whole different world away.
True.
And
Yeah.
then you right now talking about it reminded me that they trigger warning plus 30 seconds right now for mentions of physical change and body harm, that they turned part of his skin into a book about his crimes, which is the most medieval gothic punk kind of horrific thing.
Yeah.
Not that he like necessarily deserved comfort in his life, but I don't know. That's like such a weird and specific punishment.
And then he put the ad in the newspaper looking for like a woman, and he got so many letters, and those are now all printed in a journal about the event.
Surrounded by him.
Yes, exactly. The other one, I had another one. Swan Dive. The one about William Dorsey Swan.
Yeah, for Out and About. Yeah.
Y'all, just kidding. We appreciate you.
We learn so much from each other.
I know, it's true. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, getting into the story. First note is actually more related to listener survey stuff, but some of you indicated that you want to be able to access our sources and be able to see the photos that we reference, because sometimes we don't post all of them on the Instagram, or sometimes I forget to throw them in the YouTube or whatever, and I just want all of you to know that they are on our website under show notes.
Oh, cool.
If you just go to wellilaugh.com, go to show notes, there's like one page that's just lists all of our episodes with all of the topics, and they're hyperlinked to the page per episode, and all of our sources and all of the pictures and videos that we reference are usually in there. So do with that information what you will. It's what I do when I'm procrastinating my job. In case anyone wanted to know. Nice. Okay, yeah. Trigger warnings, there's animal death. It's not like Marley and Me level animal death. It's very tame. But there it is a mention. I'll put another reminder right before I talk about it. And then some mentions of animal neglect. And I think that's it.
Okay.
And
with that. Untamed Part 2.
Yes. So
the Maia Warner story.
No. Okay. Sorry. I was going to say things and then
I am too, but I'm like, it'll save it for later.
No reason. Okay. November 6th, 2024. At Alpha Genesis Primate Research Center.
I'm sorry, pause.
Yep.
November 6th, 2024. Okay, go ahead and press play.
There's a reason that none of us remember this, is what I'm saying.
What? Okay.
If you're not catching on, the election was on the 4th. So I forgot that this had happened because of all the other news that was going around at the time. But at Alpha Genesis Primate Research Center in Yemassee, South Carolina. Already a side note, I'm not going to get into the ethics of animal testing. You guys should all know, Grant is already laughing. You guys should all know that I love animals more than people. Like if Monet could talk, I would have a podcast with her, not Grant. And
I'm aware.
Yeah.
That's okay. I understand.
And I understand the reasons behind animal testing. I understand the reason, what we do to kind of I don't know, justify it to ourselves. But I also agree that there's unnecessary harm and there's probably other ways that we could do it. We're not talking about that right now. We're talking about November 6th, 2024 at this research lab. Okay. Around 1 p.m. What are you laughing at?
Because I remember this story now. Because my brother lives in South Carolina. It's like
I'm doing a very abridged version.
Okay,
yeah.
it was only in the family group chat for one day.
Yeah.
But it was a day. Anyways, go ahead.
Okay. Around 1 p.m., a new employee is going into an enclosure of female rhesus macaques, which are a small breed of monkey. And that employee was going into that enclosure for a routine cleaning and feeding. Rhesus monkeys are small, and specifically this enclosure only had females, and on average between 6 and 7 pounds each. And I think they were relatively young. And fun fact, rhesus macaques share 93% of the same DNA as humans, which is the reason, which is the justification for using them as animal testing.
That's too bad for them.
Yeah, that sucks. That's really rough. This breed of monkey is described as, quote, bold, extremely curious and adventurous, and being, quote, highly adaptable to coexist alongside humans.
Go ahead and raise your hand if you've read that on a Hinge profile before. For the most boring man you have ever talked to in your entire life.
And he's holding a fish like this. At least that's that's a straight experience.
I'm comfortable with this. Gay version, he's skiing.
That's so real. It's fair. As for diet, they eat roots, fruits, seed, bark, insects, and sometimes other small animals. The enclosure that this employee was walking into was secured by 3 gates. Designed such a way that you pass through one, close that one before you open the next one. It's supposed to be foolproof. It's like going into a dog park, which I know you don't understand, but that there's like a little between gates where you take off the leash.
For 2 months, I dated someone with a dog,
That's
and
right,
we went to a dog
yeah.
park, and I was like, well, if this is my future, I hate this.
Fair enough. And most dog owners also should probably hate it a little bit more than they do. Okay, so it has 3 gates. And this employee somehow left all 3 gates unsecured and open. And here's a quote from like the owner of the research facility. It's really like follow the leader. You see one go and the others go. It's a group of 50.
Oh my God.
Only 7 stayed behind. 43 of them bolted out the door. Like, visualize 43 monkeys for me. That's insane.
Even if they're just the size of our friend Mo. That's
so
much.
Lot of monkeys. This is the largest jailbreak, quote unquote, that this facility has experienced. Occasionally, like 1 or 2 will get loose, or maybe a handful, but like this 43 monkeys. Reportedly, the monkeys all stayed close to the facility. Quote, they're just being goofy monkeys jumping back and forth and playing with each other. So I think for a lot of the time that a lot of the monkeys were out of their enclosure, they were within sight of the people trying to catch them.
Is it okay if I just chime in real quick?
Go for it.
For some people, that job is just a job. And they're getting to trivia late that night, being like, you're never going to guess what day I had. And they all hold up their phones. They're like, oh, babes, we know what day you had.
Yeah. The monkeys were outsmarted by monkeys were outsmarting their would-be captors, who had placed baited traps, but the monkeys did not want to go inside. And they would try and get food to like lure them, and the monkeys would like grab the food and like run off. Notably, the facility said that the monkeys which escaped had not been tested on due to their young age and size, meaning that there's no public health risk.
Great.
Because the research facility tests like diseases, I believe.
Oh.
Yeah. Again, we're not getting into it. There's a whole lot of problems. We get it. A local to the area named Mia Mitchell told ABC News that she was driving home that evening and saw a monkey running across the road. Quote, I thought my eyes were deceiving me, and I was like, that couldn't be a monkey. But it was.
How many monkeys do you have to see on your way home before you? How does that question go?
Literally,
for me, I'm like
single one.
like 51 owls, but even a raccoon that kind of looks like a monkey. And I'm like, what
the
I better
hell?
go to the store, get some canned food, and then kind of bolt down. I've been in this drill before, okay?
Yes. Okay, so Mia Mitchell sees the monkey. She pulls over to the side of the road and watches the monkey run across the street, head towards a house, and then run up a tree. And she had her daughter with her, and the daughter's like doing that little kid thing where they're like, here, monkey, monkey, monkey. And she's like, stop calling the monkey.
First 3 minutes of a horror movie, and that car is the first one to explode.
Yeah. She's like, please stop. Police begin the effort of trying to help the research facility round up the monkeys. They're using thermal imaging cameras to locate and capture them. And they're also warning locals in the area that monkeys can act skittish and any additional noise can hinder the possibility of a safe capture. They also say, quote, residents are strongly advised to keep doors and windows secured to prevent these animals from entering homes. If you spot any of the escaped animals, please contact 911 immediately and refrain from approaching them. But they're also like, don't worry. They're fine.
There's no reason to worry, but if they break into your house, call the cops.
Yeah. What?
Don't you worry. It's not the monkeys full of contagious diseases. They will eventually become that. But right now, they're just wild, dangerous animals. No
that are probably friendly.
No viruses yet, though. And for reals, our generation's like Great Depression is going to be every time there's a health scare in the news, I go off and buy a pack of masks and 12 cans of beans. I'm like, I've seen this play before.
Getting a lot of toilet paper.
Exactly. Download Netflix. Download Netflix.
Okay, so that initial breakout happens on November 6th. By November 17th, a lot of them had been captured. 8 remained. So they seem to be hanging out near the facility. And so employees are able to confirm that all the monkeys are in good health and they're not hurt because they're right fucking there. But they can't catch them. November 19th, 39 of the monkeys have been returned, meaning only 4 are on the loose. What date do you think I'm going to say next for when they're all secured?
You just said November 19th.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to jump to a crazy date like Christmas Day.
January 24th. I think they caught all 4 monkeys on the same day. I think one of them was separate and then the other 3. But like all 4 of those monkeys were out there until like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, wow, that actually really paints like a whole picture.
Yeah.
2, how do they catch all 4 of them on the same day?
I don't remember. There was one of them that was caught separate, and I can't remember how that one was caught, but these 3 were captured reportedly near the facility using, you guessed it, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and monkey treats. Essentially, these monkeys were like, all right. Okay, they've upped the game. It's not bananas anymore.
I'll come in for a sandwich.
Yeah. I'll come back. And so that was the monkey escape that happened in South Carolina.
Were they Uncrustables or like homemade peanut butter and jelly sandwiches?
I hope homemade.
Okay.
Or I hope that they demand Uncrustables.
Uncrustables.
Yeah.
I mean, next time they do this, they should.
They should.
Right.
Monkeys?
It's been a labor rights episode.
Yeah.
Okay. So sorry, say the last thing you just said again.
So that's the great monkey escape of South Carolina of 2024/2025. Fun fact that I found when researching that particular section. Did you know there's an island off the coast of South Carolina called Morgan Island where like 3,500 of these rhesus monkeys live?
I 100% did not.
It's like part of the breeding program for the facility. But they initially...
We're just growing them free range
because
out
they're
in
super
the Atlantic
expensive
coast.
to buy. You have to buy them from like China or India. And now with like, especially now with tariffs going up and stuff, there's like new restrictions. And so now they really can't buy them.
I'm sorry. So buying the monkeys is expensive, but converting an island into a monkey factory... less expensive.
The monkeys just live free on that island. I think they just put some extras on there at some point, and now they've bred, and now there's like so many monkeys that now like the South Carolina tourist government is like, you should go take your boat around there, but don't go on it.
Did Jurassic Park literally teach us nothing?
No, it didn't. Dude, I don't know.
We've introduced monkeys to the North American ecosystem.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Just on one island.
Great.
This is what rhesus macaques look like.
Oh, those monkeys
Yeah.
are terrifying. Absolutely
They're
not.
like one step bigger than the monkeys that you'll see in like a movie, you know? But they're like, they have red faces and like light brownish, grayish fur.
Hey, heads up, for at least 49% of us, they're exactly what I thought baboos looked like in my head.
Baboos?
Yeah.
Baboons.
Great.
Good. But my dear Grant, this is not the only time this breed of monkey has escaped in large quantities and caused chaos. It's not the most famous, and it's not even the highest quantity of monkeys that have escaped. Because that honor goes to the Long Island monkey escape, aka the Rhesus monkey revolt, aka the Great Massapequa Monkey Mutiny of 1935.
1935? Mm-hmm. Do they get to the Jumbo the Elephant Museum and slide in Newark, New Jersey?
No, but it's very close. Massapequa, I believe it's like on Long Island.
Sometimes you hear the start of a story and you're like, the way I'm going to regale this to a bunch of 15-year-olds who have no escape option at all whatsoever. Excellent.
I've been
Thank
doing
you.
real deep stories lately, and this time I like literally Googled zoo escapes or zoo breaks when you said Untamed, and the first link was a listicle that I have linked in my sources if you're curious, and the first one was like, this time that however many monkeys that I'll tell you later escaped from a zoo in Long Island.
I mean,
Boom story.
I assume they all settled in Staten Island. Oh, it's a joke. Get it?
You done?
Who knows? Pete Davidson's from Staten Island.
We know.
So
we
is
all
Colin
know.
Jost.
Yes. Yep.
Do you watch Saturday Night Live?
I do. I love how they make fun of each other.
Anyways,
Constantly.
continue.
Yeah, okay, anyway. But before we talk about the Great Monkey Mutiny, as I'm going to call it, we're going to talk about the person who owned those monkeys.
Okay.
For a little bit first. Frank Howard Buck is his name. I'll call him Frank for the most part. Was born March 17th, 1884. In Gainesville, Texas, to pioneering parents, which is an insane thing to say. Next sentence, he was not particularly smart. He did not excel in school aside from one class. What do you think it is?
Animal husbandry.
Geography.
Oh, okay, cool.
And I put in parentheses, LOL, couldn't be me.
So Danny coded.
Yeah. So he does what any rational human would do when they realize that they're not good at school. He gave up after 7th grade.
Oh, okay.
Classic.
But it's the 1800s, you said?
Yeah, 1880s
Okay.
when he was born. So 1890s probably now. So he worked an assortment of jobs, one of which being a cow puncher.
Every new sentence almost demands a pause out of me. Do I even want to know what a cow puncher does?
It's apparently a term used in Texas referring to an animal herder who tends to cattle. But I was like...
So he's a cowboy. He's like a less fancy cowboy. And so he's
Cow
not a whole
puncher?
cowboy. He's a cow abuser. He's a cow puncher.
But he's literally taking care of animals. They're like, oh, you're a cow puncher.
Why does cow puncher sound like the name of a dish at Texas Roadhouse?
It also sounds like a character on the movie Cars.
Yes.
For some reason. Yeah.
In my fantasy, cow puncher is just an 8-ounce sirloin, but then 2 baked potatoes instead of 1.
Ooh. I like that. I like the way you think. We should get into business.
I'm a food person.
I know. Another thing he did aside from cow punching was selling songs to vaudeville singers. No more information on that. That's all I got about that.
I have settled into the fact that there will be many things I do not understand in this episode.
Yeah. Yep. His one true passion, though, even as a child, was collecting animals. Small animals and birds mainly. So like if you would see like a new species of frog, you'd probably take it home, or a new species of bird, he would try and take that. Mom, can this stay? And also working on farms. In his late teens, he moved to Chicago, where eventually in 1911, he would win $3,500 in a poker game. $3,500 in 1911 is about $115,000 today. So that's spending money, at least. It's not fix my life money, but it is spending money. So he decides to use this money and go on a trip to Brazil, where he intends to collect more animals. obviously, and focusing specifically on birds on this trip. So he brings back a lot of exotic birds to New York, and he makes a shocking profit from selling them. So much so he's able to fund another trip back. And so he goes back out to South America.
Remind me of his name again.
Frank Buck.
Frank Buck, bird exporter.
Except, like, I don't think the plane is really a big thing right now. I think he's literally on a boat.
Like shipping them back. I like to think that the last career he has, Hank Buck, inventor of Big Buck Hunter.
I like that.
I've been thinking about it for the last 15
Yeah,
years.
okay, good. So after his second trip back, when he comes back to New York, he not only, or wherever he comes back to, he not only sells the birds that he had caught while in South America, but also about half of his personal collection of birds. I like don't even want to think about what his apartment looks like in Chicago.
Oh my God.
So anyway, he makes a ton of money. And so he's like, I think I could make like a living out of this. So he decides to like really like kind of throw himself into this and become a animal collector, trafficker, the exporter. I don't know.
Okay.
It should be noted, I don't believe this was illegal at the time because everyone talks about it. I don't think this was a hush-hush thing. I think this was very normal, and we'll talk a little bit more about the society norms around it in a bit.
And like, while we're absolutely like sad now that these wild animals were like ripped from their environments to die on the Upper East Side in someone's apartment, at the time everyone was like, what? A peacock? That reminds me of my friend Maia.
As it should. As it should.
Deep cut reference. Anyways.
Also, at this time when he's catching animals, he does it very humanely. Tranquilizer darts were like not even a thing at this point, and so he caught all of his animals by like his experience from a child, teaching him to like be patient and cautious, and he sets up like humane traps and snares designed not to hurt the animals.
I have obviously been trying to riddle that out in my own brain. I just assumed he drugged the fruit. It's like just a bunch of like
I now don't trust
Dr. Scholl's
you.
old-timey sleeping medication, just like
Snake oil.
100% just coated amongst a bunch of cantaloupe and water, like honeydew, and then just like, birds come and they eat it, and then once they're all sleepy,
you pick
them up and you put them in a cage.
That wasn't an option back then.
Oh, what cocaine was? Okay.
Yeah, yep, in your Coke, so that's good. Frank Buck becomes known for the animals that he's able to bring back. He would accompany all of the animals back to the U.S. on the boat to ensure all the animals are well treated and well cared for. He became known for like taking good care of the animals. I mean, as good a care as you can when you're like kidnapping them. But he coins the catchphrase "bring them back alive" at some point because around this time also like Teddy Roosevelt's a big hunter. So, right. So like hunting big game is also a thing. So this is his response to that. He ended up traveling to Asia a lot, so much so that he sets up a headquarters in Singapore.
So I can ask, what year does he start a lot of these travels? Because you said
he wins the game in 1911. So from then, I think, to 1920 is when there's like a big shift.
And when was he born again?
1888.
Okay, cool.
While he's on one of these trips in Singapore, the stories I'm about to tell you come from his diary. At some point, it kind of gets published into a book. We'll talk about it. But that's how these stories are originated. So he comes across a monkey that he names Gladys. Gladys is unique even to other animals in Frank's care at the time because she's like so gentle. His story is that he's like checking on all the monkeys and she like reaches her hand out and like really like gently kind of like touches his arm and he's like amused. And so he opens the cage and she like patiently waits for him to like invite her out of the cage, and then from then on she's like kind of allowed to free roam for a lot of the time and just like vibes.
The Stockholm Syndrome episode summarized in 10 seconds.
Less help.
Right there.
Exactly. So she's allowed to free roam a lot of the time on the premises. She would accompany Frank on his car rides through Singapore. Gladys was known to make her straw bed every night, like really meticulously. She would also unfasten any collar that Frank like tried to put on her, no matter how tight or how loose. She would also attempt to read books by opening them and staring at them for like an hour straight.
At me.
I have a lot of people I could make that joke about. I'm glad you said that, though. That's good. And then sometimes she would sit back and relax and enjoy a small glass of beer or sometimes tea.
As is her right.
As is her right. It's
prohibition back in America.
You go, Gladys.
You enjoy being in China.
But her best habit was one that clued Frank into where she might have grown up. One day, he's holding a basket of laundry, and Gladys takes it from him and begins like soaking the laundry, washing it, and wringing out all of the clothes. So his theory is that she grew up near a smaller native town and learned that behavior from watching like the women wash clothes in the river nearby. And so I don't know. I thought that was fun.
That is interesting.
I think they called her like the laundress or something like that as a nickname.
Gladys the laundress.
Yeah. And then Gladys would end up being sold to the municipal zoo in Madison, Wisconsin.
What?
Yeah.
He sold her?
He sells almost every animal.
I was prepared for them to be lifelong companions.
I was too, a little bit.
You promised me this wasn't a Marley and me situation.
I don't even know when she died or if she could still be alive for all. She's probably not, but like.
A 110-year-old monkey that you have never heard of.
And now I want to make just another note. We can talk all day about the ethicality and morality of zoos. And I want to acknowledge that what Frank did is morally questionable today. And he also will sell some of the animals he catches to circuses, which obviously have their own legacy. And obviously none of this is good for wild animals, but it happened, so I'm telling you. Also, bringing over exotic animals here can lead to a lot of ecological damage, like the Burmese python in the Florida Everglades, which people think were brought in the 1970s as a result of the exotic pet trade.
And that they still do, like, they hunt for them in Florida. There's like a python. I think you can get
paid, yeah. There's like a retrieval or roundup program or something.
And it's one of those things where it's like really good for native plants and animals to try to hunt as many of those as possible.
You can. Yeah. So not to excuse any of this, but more to provide context to why he was making so much money from exotic pets is because exotic pets were a much more common thing, particularly in the early 1900s, particularly like up to and kind of through part of the Great Depression. In fact, in New York, the 1920s and 30s went through what some will now call, quote, animal mania. There was a lot of privately owned exotic pets as well as private zoos and like menageries of just people who had collected a lot of exotic animals. And so, quick but not really quick side tangent. I just had so much fun writing this. Okay. I was trying to find like qualitative evidence of like how many people owned exotic pets in New York around this time versus today, and that kind of thing. And I don't know how I ended up here, but I found out that, I started looking into the pets of presidents.
Yeah.
And I think this proves my point. All right. So there's a Wikipedia page just for presidential pets, if you're curious. And there's also like a presidential pet museum website that lists all of them and like will occasionally show pictures if they're available. You want to know who the longest lists belong to? On Wikipedia?
George H.W. Bush?
No.
Teddy Roosevelt.
Is one, yeah.
And then there's one more. Is it something weird like Herbert Hoover?
It's Calvin Coolidge.
Oh, okay.
Those two, which were Teddy Roosevelt was president 1901 to 1909, and Calvin Coolidge was 1923 to 1929. And those two people, like, regardless of even what pets they owned the longest list of pets compared to all of the presidents.
This really is like the prime age of like an exotic pet as like a status
apparently
symbol. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So of all of the presidents from George Washington leading up to Teddy Roosevelt, they all owned kind of a lot of common pets, and some farm animals because that was more the time. But they would have like dogs, cats, rabbits, fish, horses, cows, sheep, goats, chickens, roosters. Unclear on like how many of those lived on the premises. I did see one note. I don't remember what year it was or what president it was, but this president had a cow and it was like noted next to it, this is the last cow that lived on the White House property. So I do think at some point they did house animals. But then the most unusual is like the occasional parrot or other bird that some of these presidents owned. Yeah. Shockingly few cats, actually. I was surprised. The first cat owned by a president was owned by, do you want to guess?
Bill Clinton.
Lincoln.
Oh, so off by hundreds of
yeah.
these.
It wasn't
Okay.
like that shocking. It was just shocking to me. Lincoln owned 2 cats named Tabby and Dixie that were gifted to him by his Secretary of State, William Seward. Because of the cats, Lincoln had sent his dog Fido home to stay at his home in Illinois.
Oh.
And so the cats stayed with him. Lincoln at one point said that Dixie, quote, is smarter than my whole cabinet. So that's an example of the like average pets that they owned. The weirdest pets I found up to Teddy Roosevelt were silkworms, owned by John Quincy Adams' wife, Louisa Adams. And then opossums owned by Benjamin Harrison, who was president 1889 to 1893.
It's always the presidents you don't think about.
Yeah. And the names of those 2 opossums were Mr. Reciprocity and Mr. Protection, which is based off of the Republican Party platform. That's, quote, protection and reciprocity are twin measures of Republican policy and go hand in hand.
Of course they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. And then there was potentially an alligator owned by Benjamin Harrison as well that maybe lived in the White House Conservatory. It's really funny about this because like I don't know how it's not well documented, but like some of the pages or some of the notes for some of these animals is like, yeah, like some people mentioned it, but there's no like hard evidence. Like, how is there no hard evidence?
Especially if it's like an alligator.
Like there has to be like legal. We know every time that Biden's dog bit someone this past like 4 years.
And we thank you for your service.
And we thank you for your service too. But like, Jesus Christ, like how do we not know if there was an opossum?
Like not even like a funny little anecdote of someone who had like a dinner party there.
Like,
that's disappointing.
Right? Yeah. And then there are the strangest of the animals, the most exotic of the animals owned by presidents up to Teddy Roosevelt are gifts given by like other world dignitaries. And most of these gifts will end up being sent to like the National Zoo or other zoos in the area. For example, Martin Van Buren potentially received 2 tiger cubs as a gift and then gave them to a zoo. And then James Buchanan was offered 2 elephants, which were offered to him and then he refused. So like, I don't know how that went.
Where are you going to even put it?
Yeah, exactly. So now Teddy Roosevelt. Again, 1901 to 1909. Some of these belong to his kids, but I get the impression that all of these at least lived in the White House at some point. So the average ones are dogs, ponies, horses, like chickens, hens, and rabbits. Then there's a barn owl, a one-legged rooster named Fierce, guinea pigs named Admiral Dewey, Bishop Doan, Dr. Johnson, Father O'Grady, and Fighting Bob Evans.
Name a child that.
Like, why do they have gangster names from, like, out west?
That's the Not Doctor, and that's Fighting Bob Evans.
A lizard named Bill.
Sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
One more thing.
Yeah.
If I ever get a pet,
Yeah.
1, check on me.
I
2,
will.
its name, surprising no one,
Yeah.
is going to be character actress Margot Martindale.
And then you get another one and name it, oh my God, it's John Wilkes Booth.
When I saw you start taking a sip of right as I was about to say character actress, I was like, yes. Thank you.
Not good.
Oh my God, it's John Wilkes Booth.
But you have to like nickname like Booth or something. And they're like, oh, it's like, is it short for anything? Oh my God, it's John Wilkes Booth. And they're like, where?
Right there next to character actress Margot Martindale. It's just 2 guinea pigs.
It's incredible. Okay. A lizard named Bill. A hyacinth macaw named Eli Yale. A garter snake named Emily Spinach. A small black bear named Jonathan Edwards, which would eventually be given to the Bronx Zoo. A rat named Jonathan. So yes, I will say that again. He at one point had a bear named Jonathan, and unclear if at the same time or at a different time he also had a rat named Jonathan. A badger named Josiah, aka Josh, which he brought home after a railroad trip out west. Specifically, he picked Josiah up at a stop in Sharon Springs, Kansas. He comes back home with a freaking badger.
Let me tell you, you're lucky if the only thing you pick up in Sharonsville, Kansas is a badger.
Do you want to tell us about it?
No. No, I do not. I'm kidding.
Okay. He also had a pig named Maud, a hyena named Bill, and a lion named Joe, both of which were gifts from the Emperor of Ethiopia, and both of which were eventually sent to the National Zoological Park. The hyena, at least, there is record of him living in the White House for a time. There's record of him begging for scraps at the dinner table and being taught tricks. And then I think at some point, Teddy's wife, I can't remember her name, but she's the one that's like, no. And then there's an unnamed coyote who is also a gift, also assumed to have been sent to the National Zoological Park and said to have escaped its crate and, quote, terrorized the White House offices, but turned out to be as playful as a puppy.
Is that it? Was that the last bet?
Yeah.
So what? No bull moose?
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, so here's why that joke's funny. No, I'm kidding.
You can say it.
Oh, after he decides not to run for re-election, or he gets term limited out, he decides to run again for the presidency against President Taft. Right. But President Taft wins the Republican Party nomination, and so Teddy Roosevelt runs on his own party called the Bull Moose Party.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
In the 1912 election.
Wow.
So do you know who ends up winning the 1912 election?
Not him.
Correct. Or Taft. It's Woodrow Wilson.
Right. Okay. I knew that. For sure.
So no bull moose, you kidding me?
No,
See, it was funny.
5 minutes later. Okay, so I mentioned the other person with the longest list is Calvin Coolidge, so we're skipping a few presidents. I'll come back to them. Calvin Coolidge was president from 1923 to 1929. His average pets were dogs, canaries, and mockingbirds. Aside from that, he had a donkey named Ebenezer. And side note, every donkey now is going to be Ebenezer to me. Like, that just fits. Like, they all look a little bit like an Ebenezer. Yeah. A goose named Enoch, a bobcat named Smokey, 2 raccoons named Rebecca and Reuben. And then he was gifted also a lot of exotic pets, some of which immediately were sent to a zoo, some of which spent some time in the White House. The following are those gifts. 2 lion cubs, which he named, Tax Reduction and Budget Bureau, both from South Africa. A pygmy hippo named Billy, and that's short for William Johnson Hippopotamus. And then an unnamed wallaby, a duiker, which is a small antelope, a black bear named Bruno, which were all sent to the zoo by Mrs. Coolidge. And then there are some pekin ducks, which Mrs. Coolidge tried to raise in one of the bathrooms and then ended up giving up and sending them to the zoo. So,
all of her pets literally do go to live on the farm.
Literally. The presidents between those 2 presidents, who are they? Pop quiz. There's
between
3.
Taft and Coolidge.
Between Coolidge and Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt, yeah.
So it's Taft, Woodrow Wilson, and McKinley.
Harding.
Damn it. Okay.
So close. So those 3, Taft, Wilson, and Harding, didn't have many pets. Mainly farm animals, dogs, and birds. Harding, however, did own a squirrel named Pete.
They're weird guys.
Yeah. The presidents following Coolidge had dogs, cats, fish, an occasional horse, a bird, hamster, or rabbit. There are a few gifts from dignitaries, although it kind of stopped as we get closer to the modern day. Eisenhower received a baby elephant named Zimbo. All of the gifts essentially were almost immediately sent to the National Zoo. The other weird ones from following Coolidge are an alligator owned by Hoover's son, and a possum named Billy Possum, also owned by Hoover, and Hoover was president 29 to 33, so it still kind of fits into this like animal mania time frame. JFK's daughter had ducks, and JFK himself had a salamander, which was a gift from RFK Jr. Like, why?
Probably just RFK, not RFK Jr.
There's another junior before this current junior. Yeah, this one was a long time ago. I did the same thing where I was like, no.
So just from his brother RFK. Probably, which is probably a junior, but
Yeah. I was like, we just went over this. W. Bush had a longhorn cow named Ophelia, but I don't think she ever lived at the White House. And also, the name Ophelia, how do you spell it?
Ophelia.
Yeah, he spelled it O-F.
It's actually, I think, the Latino spelling. Like the
Is it really?
I think it's the Hispanic
Okay, I was
spelling
like,
of Ophelia.
is he just like, did he just hear the word
No,
and
he's
just
that
guess?
Texan.
Yeah,
Which is crazy because
he's just like
from
Hispanic.
Connecticut.
Yeah, that's weird. The only presidents to not have pets while in the White House are, do you want to guess?
No, I have no idea who it might be.
James K. Polk,
Okay.
who was 1795 to 1849.
Okay.
And he has a quote that's like saying something like, the president has no time for leisure or something like that.
Okay.
It's like, okay, calm down. And then the other one, Andrew Johnson from 1808 to 1875. But Johnson did
What? No,
1808. Oh, that is wrong.
That's when he lived.
Yep, that is.
He takes over in 1865.
See, that's
after
why I
Lincoln
have Grant.
gets assassinated, and then it serves the remainder of Lincoln's term and does not run for re-election. So for 1865 to 1868.
And then he dies in 75.
Correct.
I
Well,
know
probably
that
because
number.
Ulysses S. Grant, who I'm pretty sure hated Johnson, and the feeling was mutual,
Yeah.
wins the election in 68.
Cool.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for catching that. You were like, no.
He was not a 63-year president.
Someone would have caught that in the comments. Okay. Johnson did not technically have a pet, but it is noted he allegedly took care of some mice he found in his bedroom.
Gross.
Like fed them. And then, of course, Donald J. Trump has no pets. Just another red flag to add to the many that are there. So anyway, pets were a big thing in the 20s and 30s and early 1900s in general.
And tell us the name of the main character again.
Frank Buck.
Frank Buck is here to capitalize on
Yeah.
that. He's here to ship you monkeys and birds from all over the world.
And pythons and like he also worked for zoos, and so it was like
procuring animals for
yeah,
them? Okay.
yeah, and so he's like one of the big people that brought a lot of firsts into the country. I can't remember some of the names. Like one was like Mother Monkey or something like that. But he brought a lot of animals for the first time to the U.S. So a lot of the animals that you see at the zoo, you might have to thank Frank Buck for. I did not look into that further. So anyway, another story about Frank Buck's time around the world before we bring it back to the U.S. Frank receives an unusual request from someone in Los Angeles looking for a female baby elephant under 3 feet tall for an upcoming movie. That's tiny.
Yeah.
That's baby.
Under 3 feet tall?
So he's looking for like a fresh
brand
calf.
new one.
Yeah.
Which will be above 3 feet tall by the time it arrives in LA.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So while in Sumatra, where Buck was catching snakes and monkeys,
Nope. Sorry.
yep, an Asiatic trader, which I guess is called a shikari, mentions that he has a small elephant. And so when Frank is asking the shikari about the height of the elephant, he says that the elephant is just over 10 inches tall. And Frank knows that that has to be an exaggeration because he can tell I'm looking for a small elephant. But then the shikari mentions that the elephant was female, which hits one box at least, and then that it still had hair all over its body, which signals to Frank that it's like a pretty new calf.
Okay.
Or else it wouldn't have that hair. And thus meaning that it is likely under 3 feet tall, even if it is over 10 inches. So Frank decides to go see her, making the 15-mile, aka 4-hour journey to where the elephant's being kept. And then trigger warning for some mentions of animal neglect. Skip forward 15 seconds. He finds the baby with a rope around his neck to hold it, and then meeting the requirements of the Los Angeles client, it is under 3 feet, just under, and it's tragically emaciated, shivering, and it's barely able to hold itself up. Yeah. Frank's assumption is that the baby had been taken from its mother, or maybe the mother had abandoned it, but either way, it's notoriously difficult to feed a baby elephant once its mother is not around. And so the thought is that maybe the shikari didn't intentionally neglect it, but was having trouble being able to feed it. And so even though Frank knows that it's going to be difficult to keep this baby alive, he decides to take it for the financial risk because there is a chance he can sell it off and make a ton of money. But also he recognizes that if this baby doesn't get fed, probably in the next 24 hours, that it might not make it.
Right.
And so he takes the baby elephant And he tries everything to get it to eat with no success until he makes a feeding tube out of like a thing of bamboo and fills it with rice and goat's milk. And at first, the baby elephant was not about it. And then eventually, after several attempts, she started eating and was nursed back to health from this like piece of bamboo. And so he was able to take her back to, I think he lands in Sacramento. I'm not sure. He takes her back to his Los Angeles client and sells her for $2,000. And that is probably around $30,000 today. Yeah. And then he also passes off the feeding tubes and shows them how to use it and everything. So she makes it. I think I saw that she ends up at a zoo, and I think, anyway.
Is that the end of the elephant story?
3 more things.
Okay.
She ends up becoming a bit of a movie star named Baby Boo. Admittedly, I couldn't find much more on her about this, but all the sources I seemed to see were related to Frank Buck, so I'm not sure what movie she was in. But there's a story where they needed her to run across the set or towards the cameraman or something, and she was not feeling it. And so the only way, after trying a lot of stuff to get her to run, was holding up the bamboo that she had used to be fed back to, or to be brought back to health. And here's a quote. And she would immediately run towards it. And so she would, quote, "Once more, the tiniest elephant I have ever brought back to America was under the spell of a bit of bamboo that had saved her life." Isn't that cute?
That's so cute.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite parts when I romanticize history is that even if you're a super busy person on top of your game, there are months of your life where you're just traveling. Yes.
Or in a carriage.
And I'm just good for them.
Yeah.
You know?
I could have got so much more reading done.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's that. It's
you and I would have gotten unlucky and got to be the person running the carriage or carrying the luggage or something.
Sorry, I was about to say something so messed up, so I'm not going to say it.
Good, the filter's working, I think.
All I'm saying is I'm so jealous of that lifestyle. Yeah. Not the necessarily capturing endangered animals and bringing
or
them
the
back to
racism
America
and slavery
to be
and
right.
all of that.
But the whole no, I'm going to do this task and I'm going to make an entire year's salary off of it. And it's going to involve
vibe.
a 6.
Yeah, Della Riviere Manley.
Yes, because they're on that boat. There's no email to respond to.
You just got to go check on your elephants every once in a while.
They've never had to hop on a FaceTime real quick. They're not even getting letters because it's a boat. You're just hanging out, man. Oh, good for them.
Because even now you can't escape that because letters can get delivered by helicopter.
Yes. And I guess at this time you could technically also get telegrams because they had wireless and things like that.
Whatever.
But
lame. No, we're not.
I would not tell you guys what boat I'm on.
I know. I'm fully aware of that. There it goes. That's the pig that you gave me in my chicken set. Grant bought me a Zen garden that just has 3D printed chickens. I don't know if I ever told you guys that.
And it's adorable.
It's very cute. And it also came with his little pig. So in the 1920s, Frank Buck was the leading supplier of wild animals to the U.S. But then something happens in 1929. Stock market crashes. And he's left penniless and unable to continue his trips because basically selling the animals is what is funding the trips.
Right.
And people aren't asking for animals or giving
exotic
orders.
Animals,
and he doesn't. Yeah. So a friend suggests to him that he write about his trips and he sell the stories. And so Frank and a journalist named Edward Anthony, I believe they have a falling out later. I did not write more information on that though. Edward Anthony collaborated to edit Frank's diary to a place where it could be published as a book in 1930. And that book is titled Bring 'Em Back Alive. And this is where we get those stories of Gladys and Baby Boo. The book helped Frank get out of the ditch he was in, the economic ditch he was in, and also helped him pay for his next trip to the Far East in 1932. But this time, he was bringing a film crew.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, so now he's making, not only is he publishing books, he's also now making films.
It's the original Steve Irwin.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit. Yeah, except less about conservation.
Yeah, fair.
So filming the adventure in general was a challenge. Bringing the cameras on these trips was a very new logistical problem. The cameras had to beware of humidity, which is a big thing, lightning, lighting, figuring out the best angles to be able to shoot these animals from. Not shoot, but like shoot camera.
Sorry,
Sorry.
I connected that as you connected it.
Okay. Funny little side tangent. In high school, I used to go swing dancing all the time, right? And this guy that I like started flirting with one time on the swing dancing floor was like mentioned he was a photographer. And at the time I was also starting to get into photography. And so I was like, oh no way. Like me too. Like we should hang out and do that sometime. Or I don't remember what I said. But then he was like, yeah, we should go shooting sometime. And I had never heard that used in the phrase of cameras before. And I was like, I mean, yeah, I'm not good with a gun, but sure. And he was like, no, like take pictures. And
That's
I was
endearing.
like, okay. Anyway, yeah.
I mean, if he was shooting them, then maybe he was the inventor of Big Buck Hunter, but that's
True. So they filmed this movie. They have trouble like getting it picked up by somebody, but then it gets picked up and then it gets produced, it gets edited and everything. And the first viewing of the film happened on August 19th, 1932 at the Mayfair in Times Square, New York. The film was a hit. It earned an estimated profit of $155,000, which is about $3.5 million today. And to put that in terms of like movies that have been released recently, specifically in 2023, because that just happens to be the number I Googled, it's equivalent to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which made about 3.8 million. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 made 3.6, and then Oppenheimer made 3.3. And so it's in that class of like household fame, you know? So big hit. Following this, he then published a book called Wild Cargo, which is a follow-up to the previous book that he had written. And then Wild Cargo was then adapted into a film in 1934. So he's like got a whole thing going on.
Yeah.
I don't think that movie did as well, but you know, whatever. Anyway, so it seems like he's now a household name. He ends up publishing 8 books and being in 9 movies, I think as an actor in all, sometimes as a producer or director or whatever, or a narrator. And then at the 1933 World's Fair in Chicago, Frank presents Frank Buck's Jungle Camp, which is designed to look like the camp he and his team had lived in while in Malaysia. And about 2 million people would visit that camp at the World's Fair. And this is Frank Buck. Yeah.
The best way I could describe it is that this kind of man nowadays has hard opinions about grills. But he also like kind of looks like Nathan Lane. If Nathan Lane dressed up as a character from the Wild Thornberry,
yeah,
this is who he would look like.
Yeah, he's got like a classic safari hat on in this picture. He has that slutty little mustache, you know. You know the one, the thin one. And so he's at the World Fair. He does all that. There's a particular part of his jungle camp that was like really well known and like people came to visit it. And it was where he kept the monkeys because he was particularly known for catching, you guessed it, the rhesus macaque.
Nice.
Yeah.
And we're back.
To
where it all began.
Yeah. Just to give you some more like stats on what this monkey like weighs and height and everything. The females are at max like 12 pounds and around 19 inches or 47 centimeters. And the males are around 17 pounds with about 21 inches long. So relatively small in the grand scheme of monkeys, I guess. So he would sell them. He was so good at catching them. He would sell them sometimes in bulk, like 100 monkeys for between $850 and $1,000. Back then, I didn't even do the conversion.
I heard you say sold monkeys in bulk.
Yeah.
And it took about 10 seconds for that to render.
Yeah.
Like he's literally selling a barrel of monkeys.
Literally 100.
Like the
yes.
game you would play as a kid.
100 monkeys at a time.
Is that where we get it from?
I don't know.
That can't be where we get it from.
I feel like I would have seen it.
He can't be the only person doing bulk monkey distribution. Not in the 1930s.
We were really into capitalism.
With the demand we have today, there's no way he's the only bulk monkey distributor.
No, it's not sustainable. And so when asked about the rhesus macaques, he said, quote, "No other living creature is so completely imbued with mischievousness. No other so triumphantly relishes man's discomfort or can be so maddeningly impish," which he said in a 1939 book. He then says, quote, monkeys are the personifications of perpetual motion, whose every little movement has a troublemaking intention behind it. So these monkeys are a crowd favorite at the Chicago World Fair in 33 to 34. And specifically, he has an exhibit called Monkey Mountain, where these monkeys are all kind of on. I'm not sure how many monkeys it was. But, I do know how many monkeys it was. It was about 500 of them on a handmade structure called Monkey Mountain, I believe around 75 feet tall, if I'm not mistaken. Alongside the monkeys, he was also presenting, quote, the 2 biggest pythons in captivity. Who knows if that's true?
Gross. Burn.
And then also, quote, a pair of giant dragon lizards. And then apparently, I saw this in one source, so I'm not sure on how true it is, but he said, Frank promised to give away 1 monkey each week of the fair.
What? Imagine finding out your kid entered the raffle without telling you, and then you won it.
And then what? And then what do I do?
I mean,
what do you want me to do?
You know what I'm doing? The better question is, what are you doing
Keeping
in
the
that
monkey.
situation? Yeah, I know.
Obviously. What are you doing? Giving it to me?
Grounding a child for forcing me to go to the fair and reject a monkey. I don't even like men in my home. I'm not bringing a monkey over.
Fair enough. I get it. Okay. So after that World's Fair, the 33-34 Chicago World's Fair, he moved his menagerie to Massapequa, New York, off of Sunrise Highway and I believe on Long Island, where he would reopen the Jungle Camp and Monkey Mountain. This zoo was a 40-acre zoo, which included Monkey Mountain, which housed around 570 of the rhesus macaques, as well as, not Monkey Mountain specifically, but the zoo also had a hotel, restaurants, and shops. And then, along with the monkeys, he was also displaying lions, tigers, elephants, monkeys, owls, and reptiles.
Wow.
Lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my, except no bears for
A
some
real
reason.
Noah's Ark on Long Island.
Yeah. As of late 1935, Frank, at this point, is on an extended trip to Asia collecting whatever animals. And he's been there probably for about a year. So the zoo's operational, but he's off in Asia. So, specifically, on August 21st, 1935,
Oh, hell yeah.
chaos strikes. This is the New York Times that published on August 22nd. And I accessed it via a thing that they called the Times Machine, which lets you view their old newspapers. Anyway, this is the article. 155 monkeys flee camp.
Oh,
Stop
my
train.
God. Oh, my God. I assume they stopped the train with guns that perfectly fit a monkey's paw.
Yes.
And they all have little bandanas.
Sure.
And one's riding a lion.
I like it.
Anyways, continue.
Yeah. 150 monkeys flee camp. Stop train. Stop. Simians escape from Frank Buck's jungle to invade Nassau County. Stop. Use plank across moat. Stop. Chattering group of 50 playing on track. Halts traffic. 30 come back. Period.
130 some escape.
50.
150 escape.
That's actually the low end. The high end is 175.
30 come back. Mm-hmm. Oof.
Yeah. So this is what the New York Times wrote about.
Go ahead.
Actually, do you want to read this?
Yes.
This is from the New York Times in the box.
A little after 11 o'clock, when Charles Selner, overawed and serene, approached the Monkey Mountain in the center of the zoo, armed with a bucket, a brush, and other incidentals. He had in mind a first-rate cleaning and renovation of the moat-rimmed quarters, with indifference born of long familiarity with the job.
The Monkey Mountain is not surrounded by fencing. It's like how you see at the zoo a lot of times, where it's like a enclosure and then there's just a moat around it.
Like a ditch.
Yeah, that's what this is. That's what he's describing.
With indifference born of long familiarity with the job, he shoved a sturdy plank from the top of the 8-foot protective wall across the circle of stagnant water to the shore of the peak-studded cavern, 6 feet away. Then he climbed the wall and, using his equipment to help keep his balance, crossed the crowded island. When, about 3 minutes later, he returned to the spot where the board touched the island, he forgot all about his job. For like endless soldiers on a moving belt, Sorry. Because you can picture it.
You can picture the monkeys
It's like a literal
yeah.
cartoon, like ants in a line.
Yes.
For like endless soldiers on a moving belt, scores of the good-humored and supposedly satisfied monkeys were prancing to freedom via the moat bridging board. One after another, nuzzling just close enough to provide maximum speed with minimal risk of traffic congestion. An incredible description.
I know.
The inhabitants of the finest monkey hotel on Long Island were heading for parts unknown. Selner watched a few more reach the wall end of the board and disappear with saucy flourishes. Then he snapped out of the spell, shattered the line of march by thundering across the board himself, pulled the gangway away from the island, and scrambled hopelessly after the fugitives. That's just
Beautiful
beautifully
writing.
written.
Like,
Like more of that.
We need to get journalists back to
100%.
this.
We need to get some writing education back.
Yes. Yes. Also, when it says saucy flourishes, I'm imagining him like doing like a kickflip or something, and like, yeah, they're all dancing across. And I love the like description of him like in a trance because he's watching like his job disappear in front of his eyes.
And 150 to 170 monkeys as well are also disappearing.
And he's like, shit, I have to do something. So the exact number is unclear, but it's anywhere from 150 to 175 monkeys escaped. 2 monkeys were caught almost right away, being described as, quote, defiant but simply too slow. Savage. Shortly after, Nassau police officer Andrew Gobel and zookeepers caught 2 more of the monkeys. So that's 4 of 150. Anyways, so the zoo is in operation when this happens, which means there's patrons there.
Do you have the number of how many lived on the island in total?
570.
There were 570 monkeys.
I forgot to
on
pull a
this
picture of
island?
it, but it's a huge like structure.
Is this island an island off the coast of South Carolina? Like, how big is this island?
Not big enough to be ethically not a concern. You know, like it's busy.
How are there 575 monkeys being held back by a rim of water?
No. Oh, the best part is, we'll talk about this in a second, some of the monkeys come back on their own and they swim or jump across.
All of these walls are imaginary. They just replant themselves.
They're like, well, yeah, a few of them do, yeah. They're like, anyway, that was enough of that.
Phenomenal.
I'll find a picture.
Phenomenal.
It's so funny.
It's like when you were a kid and you were playing Zoo Tycoon.
Yes.
And you had been playing for about 8 or 9 hours now, and you were a little bored, so you deleted a section of Fence from the Lion Cage and just kind of let him roam for a little bit. Yes.
So this is the original Monkey Mountain, and I believe the one that was put into his actual menagerie was slightly bigger.
That's not
Yeah.
nearly big enough.
No, not by
for
today's standards.
570 monkeys.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Nope, that's it. That's where I'm going to end.
I don't understand.
Like, I don't even know how you would actually get 570 monkeys to fit on it.
Well, this one had a fewer monkeys because it was the Chicago World Fair, but not by like much. I am not sure.
It just feels like to put that many monkeys on an object like this feels like a challenge you'd have to do at like a church youth group.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks handmade. I believe that. Like, it looks nice.
It looks like it's paper mache, and it looks like it's just gonna like collapse in on itself. You know.
Before you start again. Okay, we're back.
Okay. I was just thinking that I feel like this is the first episode I've done on animals, and then I remembered that I did Wojtek, that bear, and then I remembered that that's also a favorite of the listeners, and I just completely missed it when I was looking at the numbers.
Nice little pause.
Yeah. Okay, so the monkeys escape while the zoo is like open, and so people see these monkeys escape, and apparently the people who were at the zoo were, quote, less than alarmed at the monkeys because they were not harming anyone. They were just kind of like running around, like causing havoc, and people were like more entertained than concerned. Just hysterical.
I just think what would happen if we let a couple of Reese monkeys roam around like we do peacocks, which is suddenly becoming an area of interest of mine.
I mean, I feel like they might start doing my laundry.
I don't, but that's fine.
To be clear, Gladys was not a rhesus monkey. She was a lot bigger.
Oh, that's what you're referencing.
Yeah.
I was like, no, yes. Okay,
Yes.
actually, maybe.
Yeah.
So, a small regiment of monkeys have escaped the zoo.
In Long Island.
And they're all like, oh, wow, usually you have to pay extra for this kind of experience.
Yes. That's it. That's it.
It's a really realistic experience of what it was like at the camp when he was in Asia, right? Just monkeys roaming
Monkeys
around.
everywhere. Yeah, exactly. So people start calling into the police pretty quickly.
Okay.
Reporting monkeys like in and on people's homes. Although a lot of them did note that the monkeys seemed harmless, like they weren't threatening anyone, but they were just like a concerning presence, if you will. So monkeys are actually sighted spanning 2 counties, Nassau, and then I don't know which one next to it, but another one. They began terrorizing motorists, climbing flagpoles, and raiding local fruit stands. Here's a quote.
No one on their phone, just absolutely in the moment, monkeys about, fruit stands.
Like, what do? Like, you're a 16-year-old manning, like, your uncle's fruit stand on the side of the road, and you're like...
They are never going to believe this.
Yeah. Because you can't take a picture. Okay, quote. The storm broke out shortly before noon today, and tonight homeowners and fruit stand operators in 2 counties fidgeted uncomfortably in the advancing shadow of a simian invasion.
Again with the writing.
I know, it's so good. So 4:00 on that same day, August 21st, about 50, quote, chattering and having a grand time generally, blocked the eastbound Long Island Railroad train going from Massapequa to Seaford. The New York Daily News reported that, quote, monkeys were everywhere, chattering, scampering, leaping from tree to tree. They swarmed down on 100 laborers working on the right-of-way on the Long Island Rail, and the latter, with wild yells of fright, dropped their picks and shovels and fled.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Monkeys.
Yeah.
And kind of scary.
Yeah. So the monkeys blocked the train track, preventing the train from passing until crew members started tossing them bananas. Unclear on the logistics there. But then the conductor... The conductor, quote, had heard about such things happening in India, and he helped clear the tracks, and the train proceeded about 5 minutes later.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's like, what?
Listen, I'm not supporting this at all. I need to make sure that's clear. I'm not supporting this. But I am personally pleasantly surprised that people in the 1930s cared enough
To know what was going on in India?
to stop.
Also true.
Like,
That's a good point.
Here's the thing. I don't know if they were more or less empathetic, but when I think of 1939, I don't think animal rights.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
I generally tend to think nothing stops the wheel of industry. That's
yes,
what
yeah.
I think of. And so when we stop a train for a bunch of wild zoo monkeys,
Yeah.
it makes me feel a little bit better about this country.
True. This next note will also make you feel better about our country. Later, the railroad assigned a special crew to shoo the bright-eyed animals out of the way. They're like, hey, I know it's your day off, but do you mind coming in? We need you to keep the railways clear.
That's inspired an idea.
Okay.
So as a public school teacher, we are constantly fundraising for everything.
Yeah.
And that's tough. And one fundraiser that's I've seen and done in places before is you buy a bunch of pink yard flamingos.
And yes.
You can pay $10, $15,
And
$20.
we'll go put them
it
in there.
anywhere.
Yeah.
And then if you get one in your yard, you have to you can pay $10, $15, $20
to do it
for
back.
us to remove it and bring it somewhere else.
Cool.
And just imagine that but with live monkeys. It's a fundraiser
Chaos.
for the zoo.
Yeah.
Because they're like, listen, either people pay to get these monkeys out of the yards, that's money, or we don't get these monkeys back, and that's money
Still
saved.
money. Yeah.
It's money earned, money saved. But either way, we're gonna get a nice little
Making
pocket,
money.
little
Yes.
cushion.
Yeah. They just want to get rid of the monkeys. So the people that were familiar with the monkeys, the people that worked with them regularly, agreed that that this group of monkeys would not have left and acted the way that they did without a leader.
I think I've seen this movie. What's his name? Caesar? Something like that? Yeah.
They agreed that the leader in question was a, quote, particularly wily monkey named Al Capone. Wait. These people had to A, call into the police and say our monkeys led by Al Capone. And then those police officers had to then call into New York Dispatch to say, we have to go chase down these monkeys led by Al Capone.
Led by the monkey Al Capone.
Yeah.
And sure, like NYPD is like, what is this? Some kind of like anti-Italian slander? Like, I'm here for it, but we can't say it over the dispatch because it's 1939. And like, that's also what racism looks like, Italian.
Yeah.
I said also, not instead of. I want to note that. Okay, it was broader description.
I just love that the New York City Police Commissioner was like, I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry, what are you doing? Calling us, this sounds like a Long Island problem.
Yeah. We don't claim you.
Exactly.
Call Jersey.
Exactly. Let us know when they hit Manhattan.
Okay. On the evening of the first day, so still August 21st, a total as, how many do you think?
Okay, first day.
Captured.
Are we guessing how many are returned? Mm-hmm. Oh, 9.
7.
Okay. Yeah.
7 are captured. 7 are captured. But 32 of the monkeys went home on their own.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're getting close to 40. About a third are back.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Quote, they headed for home, converging through the woods on the wall that encircled the mountain. Up the wall they went, leaping singingly in pairs over the moat onto the other side. Because of the darkness and the haphazard manner of the homecoming, it was impossible to obtain an accurate count of the returning holiday seekers.
These monkeys have left before. These monkeys...
Even if they don't know it, those monkeys have left.
Not to make this a Mary Oliver poem, but these monkeys know the way home.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. So, A, we still don't know how many monkeys escaped or how many left. Like, it doesn't even matter at this point if they counted the number of monkeys on the island. They don't know who's gone. But also the monkeys are proving that they can get out whenever they want.
Right.
So some leapt or swam over the moat. In the morning, 20 of the monkeys were found gathered on a pole near the enclosure, and then another 12 on other nearby poles. So they're like, hey,
we would like to go back, but we don't really
we don't know how to get over.
We don't know the way home.
Yeah.
Mary Ellen.
Oh, my God. So anyway, there's still anywhere between 113 and 138 monkeys still roaming Long Island.
Okay. Which is absolutely enough to create a small residential population in the wilds of Long Island.
Yes. By August 23rd, 2 days later, there were still 111 out there.
Okay.
So they caught 2.
Not making a lot of great progress.
No. This is the headline. Monkey runaway still number 111. Stop. 32 simian flagpole sitters are lured back to Frank Buck Zoo. Stop. Business blooms at jungle campus. Icemen and boys aid and round up fugitives.
I know I keep interrupting every now and then with like little quips or quirks, but there's a famous fried chicken place in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Go on.
Called Lee's Chicken.
Okay.
Situated between a couple of acreages that have never sold out and like Lincoln's biggest park that holds buffalo.
Classic. We all have one.
Correct. And one day, the owner of Lee's Chicken came to Lee's Chicken and found Lee, the chicken, that is usually the sign above Lee's Chicken, gone. And it was like huge news that someone had stolen Lee, the chicken, from Lee's Chicken.
And Lee found it.
They found it like a week later. And I'm immediately like, it was a stunt. It was a publicity stunt. It was a publicity stunt. It was never missing.
And some people will say that about this, but we don't know.
I want to be like, that's my DK Cooper, but like
DB.
Yep, thank you. DB, that's my DB Cooper, but DB Cooper was my DB Cooper.
Yeah.
So this is also my DB
Cooper. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So the last line of that headline that I just read says, business blooms at jungle camp as Icemen and boys aid in roundup fugitives. So two of the monkeys were caught by two young boys who said they caught them by throwing jackets over them. And how are there 113 still out there? And then a few more were captured.
The boys are looking at the monkeys and they go, "Oh, I get it. You think none of this has anything to do with you. You reach into your jungle and throw on that frumpy fur coat."
Monet just tipped over one of our lights.
Right in the middle of my Devil Wears Prada monologue.
Yep.
I got it. Go ahead.
Thanks. I'm just going to stop for a second. Yeah, there it is. And now bring your chair
Monkey
back
cut.
over. You really scooted away from me there.
I tripped over my own pants.
I know. I didn't want to say anything, but now that you did, I'm keeping it in.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. You're still so far away.
I'm not gonna
even. Well, now you're taking up the rug.
What do you want from me?
You both
100 episodes. This has never been a problem.
There it is. Good. I don't like. Fair enough.
Is the chair okay?
It should come up a little and closer to the. Sorry, my OCD is gonna kill me. I don't even have OCD. I don't know what my deal is with these chairs. Okay. Welcome back. In case I cut it. Monet knocked over the light. Grant stood up to fix it and then moved his chair over, but then he sat back down and I was like, no, move your chair back to where it was. And then he moved the rug, which then knocked the light over again. And now we're here. So it's all good.
Feeling like I'm in jungle camp right now.
Good. A few of the other monkeys were caught by a, quote, Iceman, which I didn't know meant a literal man who sells ice.
Oh, is it like a milkman version?
Yes.
Nice. Okay.
I was like, what do you mean, Iceman? I thought that person was still alive. So the Iceman was named John Sacchio. He was literally an ice salesman. He captured 6 monkeys in his ice truck by luring them with a basket of apples. Again, how are there so many still out there?
And then just shut the door on them?
I guess. I don't know. Like, Jesus. So over the next few days, the monkeys continue to cause havoc while police, firefighters, zoo employees, and local volunteers attempt to catch them. And all of these events are being very closely covered by newspapers across the U.S., oftentimes on page 1, superseding any other political news happening in 1935.
35?
Yeah.
Okay. I like to think that they ran a promotion. Catch a monkey, win a free day at the zoo.
You are not wrong.
I would be so good at business, but no, I wouldn't because I struggle with the concepts and principles of capitalism. But
Same.
like, other than that.
Okay, trigger warning for death of an animal. We're going to talk about the only monkeys that died during this time. So maybe skip forward like a couple minutes. Okay. 4 days into the escape, AP News reported that a motorist who had swerved to avoid about 35 monkeys that were blocking the road ended up driving his car into a ditch. I saw another source that said he ran his car into a tree, and he ended up killing one of the monkeys that way. An accident.
35 monkeys were on the road?
Yes. It's terrifying.
That is terrifying.
And then the other one is a pair of them climbed a high-tension transmission tower near the town of Hicksville, and they ended up getting electrocuted, and so they didn't make it. But after they found the dead monkeys, they realized that that was the cause of the 30-minute power outage.
Wow. You've had more time with that news than I have.
Yes, I have. It's still shocking, though.
As a person who lives on the southwest side of town, usually our power outages are the result of a car accident and our too close to the road electrical poles that then takes out an entire neighborhood.
Everything.
Did you know Denver's a 21st century city?
I had no idea. Honestly, if you asked me, I would have. Remember when we first bought this house, the power went out for like 3 days in a row?
I'm joking.
Yeah. Stupid. I know you're joking, but whatever. And then, sorry, last trigger warning for the last monkey that dies. Skip forward like literally 15 seconds. He, believe gets electrocuted by a train rail. That's it.
That's actually a really small percentage
Of those
these
monkeys, right?
in a thoroughly modern Millie city.
Yes. Yeah. And they all, like, for the most part, they all make it. Okay. Volunteers for Massapequa Fire Department had to use a 65-foot ladder to retrieve 20 monkeys down from flagpoles. Reportedly, they tried many different things to get the monkeys down, but what ended up working was the 3 firefighters at the top of the ladder poked and prodded the monkeys with bamboo poles so that the monkeys went to grab the halyard, which I learned the halyard is like the thing that holds the flag onto the flagpole, and so it's attached to like the pulley system. So once they grab that, you can like pulley them down.
But then, like, are you grabbing them? Because I'm like, no.
Oh, wait, okay. So
I'm not.
Once the halyards are like within reach, but like still too high for them to jump, I guess, someone would reach up and snag them and like grab them. Yeah.
That's not me. I'm sorry.
You would be with the bamboo pole up top.
Maybe, yeah.
Also,
Just,
this
like,
is the second time I've mentioned bamboo this episode for 2 different kinds of animals, and it feels
same
weird.
guy though. He just has a lot of bamboo around.
Well, he spends a lot of time in Asia.
Here's the thing. Actually, hold on. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
The listener, you should know this too. Actually,
okay.
Never bury bamboo in the ground.
Because it'll grow
forever, and you will never be able to rip it out.
How did you learn that?
I'm on garden TikTok. Somewhat similarly, although easier to control, asparagus.
That's a crazy thing. The way asparagus grows does not feel right.
How upsetting it is. Yeah, I understand.
So you've seen asparagus, right? And you probably think it's a root vegetable. Nope. It's not. It's literally like if I gave you a head of asparagus and you just shoved it in, or a spear, and you just shoved it into the ground. That is literally how they grow.
You know those little tiny little worms at the aquarium that like come out and then it grows exactly like that. Yeah.
It's terrifying. Anyway, okay. So the firefighters are up the 60-foot ladder. There's like 3 of them. They're poking the monkeys until they move down the flagpole to the point where they can grab the little like ring or rope or whatever. And then as soon as they grab it, the people on the bottom will then like start trying to like very gently pulley them down until someone will grab them. They did that for 20 monkeys. 19 of the 20 were rescued. The other one was too quick and made a break for it.
I've seen 19 of the monkeys fall for this.
Yeah. I don't know what order it was, but he was like running back to the woods, and at some point on his way back to the woods, he accidentally like dropped into the lion's enclosure and basically did a 180 and then ran back to Monkey Mountain. He was like, you know what?
And that was it.
That's fine.
And that's how they caught the infamous Al Capone.
I don't know how they caught him or if they caught
nice.
him.
Okay.
Okay. So the jungle camp offered a reward of $10, which is over $200 today or to anyone who could catch and return a monkey. I'm not sure if this was like per monkey or per like return event or whatever. But not only that, I saw another source. A couple sources said the $10 per monkey. Another source said you would get a free year pass to the zoo.
Nice.
Free season pass.
I was already thinking of the strategy.
I was like $200 season pass to zoo with frequent monkey outbreaks. I don't know. So some people, regardless of what they were offering, were so motivated by the offer that they turned in their own monkeys to try and get the reward. It's like someone that accidentally won a monkey at the Chicago World's Fair. That's like, do you want it?
I'm such a history nerd. Mm-hmm. It was, I believe, Liechtenstein or a regiment of troops out of like Switzerland in medieval times left for war with 50 soldiers and returned from war with 51 soldiers.
What? How?
I also nope, never mind. We can keep going.
Jesus Christ.
The thought's not
mysteries.
fully baked.
Yeah. Jesus. Okay. Newspapers continued to report on the missing monkeys.
I'm sorry. It did just immediately come back as soon as you started. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine.
If this were to have happened in a town in the Midwest, it would be a thing that they then made an annual festival.
Yes.
The release of monkeys.
Yes.
And it's like, if you catch one, you get a
like a
season
turkey
pass.
trot.
Right, for that season.
Yeah.
Right, like from Milwaukee to Kansas, from Dakota to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Like, it's the time for the annual monkey hunt.
Yeah.
And you're like, this year's monkeys is a group of angry gorillas. But the winner gets a new sedan, courtesy of Smith's Sedans.
It's like the Harry Potter Goblet of Fire trials.
Exactly.
Jesus Christ. Okay. So newspapers continue to report on the missing monkeys and how many had been captured and how many were known to still be on the run. At some point, there's only 5 monkeys remaining, Capone and 4 of his females. The 4 females are eventually captured with traps baited with bananas and sweet potatoes.
Sure.
Same, girl.
If you want to trap Tyler, same exact ingredients.
Yes. Capone now had a $50 bounty on his head, just over $1,000 today, and he seemed to elude captors. As of September 9th, 3 weeks later, he was still on the lam, and public interest as well as the trail to locate him had gone cold. And I was going to Google if they ever caught him, and I didn't. But also none of the sources I read mentioned his capture. So...
Wow, fascinating.
Al Capone might still be on the loose. We don't know. At least I don't know.
As the great Creed Bratton once said, you have more fun as a follower. You make more money as a leader.
Maybe he found a new thing to follow after he was a leader.
Al Capone the monkey was like, I will lead 170 monkeys
To freedom.
to freedom to see 169 of them captured. If it means guaranteeing my own freedom.
It's like, y'all are stupid.
Yes.
He's like watching the last 4 get captured, and he's like, okay. So the zoo break appears to make Frank Buck a ton of money, though. Obviously. One of the local papers reported on August 29th, quote, last Sunday, over 10,000 persons who have read about the goings-on at the jungle camp overran the place in their curiosity to see the zoo and hope of catching a glimpse of one of the hairy fugitives. So 10,000 people. Can you imagine that even like at our Denver zoo? Like that's an insane number of people.
Pepsi Center.
Yeah, that's a crazy number of people. So due to this, some newspapers, like Variety, suspected this was all a publicity stunt, and apparently this was not completely unfounded. Because you see, Frank Buck kind of had a history of this. He had previously worked booking vaudeville acts for a hotel. In 1915, he worked as a publicity agent for the amusement zone at the Panama Pacific Exposition in San Francisco. In 2 separate instances in 1934, so the year before, 2 of his monkeys escaped their enclosure at the Chicago World's Fair, which received coverage by newspapers, parentheses, and a lawsuit from a local pottery company whose exhibit was smashed by one of the monkeys. Following the escape in 1935, there would be another 6-monkey escape at the New York World's Fair in 1939 to 1940, which would also make headlines. So not to say that he orchestrated any of these events, but he definitely knows the publicity that comes along with it. Mm-hmm. But argument against is that all of those other escapes were far less monkeys. and he was also in Asia at the time.
Sure.
You would think if he were going to release a bunch of his monkeys, he would be there to help capture them,
right.
you know? So TBD, you decide. One journalist wrote about the 1935 break that he didn't know if the chaos was a stunt or not, but, quote, if it was, I salute the press agent who pulled it. Not only did it make headlines everywhere, but coincided nicely with the reappearance of Buck himself after a year's absence in the jungles. A week after the escape, Frank appeared in San Francisco saying he was rushing to New York to take charge of the recapturing effort, but he, quote, needn't have worried about losing a monkey or 2. The cargo from his latest trip included another fine collection of monkeys from all over Southern Asia, 15 varieties.
How does a man own 570 monkeys and be like, well, you know, I'm in the market for monkeys?
Yeah. Dude, I don't know. I don't understand this man. Okay. So this little last section is just kind of legacy stuff. So Frank would be also present, as I kind of mentioned, at the 1939 to 1940 World's Fair in New York, where he brought back Monkey Mountain, amongst other things. At the fair, At the fair, the monkeys were a menace. They repeatedly escaped, and the New York Times reported that they often had to be, quote, dragged squealing out of the fair's big paper refuse baskets.
At what point does it become the buck's fault, you know?
I don't know. I mean, if it's still bringing headlines, like everyone around him is like, well,
no one seems upset by it, but at the same time, I'm like, Buck's like basically like asking them to run away.
Yeah.
He's like taking balls to play fetch with them and throwing them out of the exhibit.
And then he's like, oh no, how'd you get out? When World War II hit, the jungle camp in Massapequa suffered, and by 1943, Frank threw in the towel and he distributed the remaining animals to public and private zoos. By 1944, so it's a 40-acre property. By 1944, 19 acres of that property was used for packing small arms ammunition for the war effort. In the 1950s, the Grimaldi family would buy the remaining property and turn it into the Massapequa Zoo and Kiddie Park, which was like part amusement park and then part like petting zoo, but with much more tame animals for the kids to play with. But they did keep Monkey Mountain as an homage to Frank Buck in the original Jungle Camp. In 1965, the Grimaldi family sold the land to be made into a parking lot to support the local shopping center. Womp womp. However, Frank Buck's career did not necessarily die with the closing of Jungle Camp. He was still hired for lectures, and he was able to publish books and make movies through and after World War II. Throughout his career, he would cross the Pacific Ocean 40 times and circumnavigate the world 5 times. It just feels like a lot of time on a boat, if you ask me.
Even more, it feels like a lot of time to spend around animals while traveling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he loved animals. It was his passion. So, I mean, props to you. He did end up dying in his San Angelo home in Texas in 1950 at the age of 66 of lung cancer. In his New York Times obit, it was reported that he estimated that he had captured over 100,000 birds of every variety, over 50 elephants, around 65 tigers, an unnamed number of pythons, which is concerning, and hundreds of other animals. And then in 1954, the Gainesville Community Circus was renamed the Frank Buck Zoo in his honor. And in 2008, it opened the Frank Buck exhibit, which showcased some of the tools and media memorabilia that had been donated by Frank's daughter, Barbara. And so that's the story of the monkey mutiny of 1935. This is the last picture I'll show you. It's one of the newspapers that reported on it. And I just think the graphics are hilarious.
My God. It's hilarious, but also terrifying.
Yeah.
See, like, this monkey is cute. Mm-hmm. This little tiny thing right here.
That's not a rhesus, though.
It's
very misleading, yeah. Because that's the kind of monkey that, like, Ross had on Friends. Like, that's the kind of monkey that was in Night at the Museum.
And it's the kind of monkeys that they have drawn on this car.
Yeah.
And it's clear, like, it might have been, at a time before the internet, the only kind of monkey the illustrator could draw.
Yeah.
Yes.
The monkeys are, like, not that much bigger, but they are bigger than the monkeys, the, like, cinematic monkeys we're thinking of.
It's just such a classic example of, like, this is one of those instances where it's like, is the truth crucial to the story, or can we just get close to the truth, right?
I think we could just get close, because some of it's all hearsay. We don't even know how many monkeys left. We don't know if Al Capone ever got captured. Well, and I don't anyway.
Also, the St. Louis Dispatch in St. Louis, like, doing a human interest piece story, good for them.
Yeah.
Also, hilarious story.
I know, right?
Has not changed my thoughts about owning a pet at all.
That's fair.
Still pretty solidified in that respect.
I wasn't trying to change your opinion.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh,
I do, however, want to go to a zoo now again. Like, I want to go have a little bit of time.
We should go to Gainesville Zoo, Frank Buck Zoo.
Or, and this is more practical, the Denver Zoo.
Oh, I mean, I'll go there too. Whatever. Okay, my sources for today's episode, the listicle that I got the idea from was from I read the word Dispatch. I meant to say the word Discover. And then the other big articles were Smithsonian, the New York Times, the Oyster Bay Today, the Gothamist, Britannica, a few Wikipedia articles, Amityville Records, the Hofstra Library, the Paris Review, Presidential Pet Museum, AP News, and then ABC News, and then a few others to like fill in details. But
nice. Well done. And what a fun tape. I mean, like, direction to take Untamed.
I've been doing a lot of serious episodes recently. I needed to
I get you.
Yeah.
I am right now even wordsmithing around the idea of like what a triple threat is, right?
You know what a triple threat is, right? Technically?
Sing, dance, act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was like, oh,
we're
Jesus.
starting there.
Okay.
At one point, I've dipped into sauces. So I'm getting real experimental with my
Okay.
definition for
Good.
triple threat.
Please do, because
Yes.
I did tell you at one point that I would be covering a man soon, and I want you to know that today's covering Frank Buck was not what I meant.
Okay.
So
Did you mean it in triple threat?
yeah. So if you start looking at a man, just maybe hit me up.
That sounds like more Patreon content if you ask me. Me looking at a man?
Haha.
Ha! Wouldn't. Haven't done it in a
so
hot
bad.
second.
Hopefully you enjoyed this. I tried to keep it a little bit lighter. I heard some of you loud and clear in the listener survey. Honestly, it was good to hear that, like, chill. And I was like, fair enough. You want to know yours that I think is funny?
Sure.
It's
Okay.
super. I'm not even going to share the feedback with you until you're done with like state.
Thank you.
It's all very like tame. People are very loving, but they were like, I want Grant to stop making his like an original oratory speech, parentheses,
Nope.
coming from a previous speech and debater. I was like,
I literally don't know how to do that, so I am so sorry and like noted, and it's not changing. So.
he doesn't know how to do the bulleted lists that I
No.
do. That doesn't make sense to his brain. While for me, it doesn't make sense to write out full sentences.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It captures like the vibe that I'm trying to go for.
Sure.
Yep. So with love, no. But heard, no. I don't
There was
know.
one. So I've been accepting answers from listeners and non-listeners, and I feel okay saying this because this came from a non-listener.
Okay.
But they were like, I don't like when people talk about politics when it's meant for entertainment, and I was like, hey,
there's that.
no.
Maybe we should just check our queer identities and your biracial identity at the door.
Yeah, and just stop
creates a
thinking about
safe
how
environment
that
for everybody.
really affects the way that we view life and experience life. And
Sorry.
you're good.
Imagine what all of my stories about all the interesting and fascinating women that I've covered would be like if I checked my queerness at the door.
Imagine
and became a
covering
heterosexual
Wicked.
male.
Imagine covering Wicked or QAnon without my political affiliation.
Yeah. But you know, that's why not all feedback's good feedback.
It's all good regardless of if we take it. We're probably, by the time this releases, I think the giveaway associated with the survey will be done. But if you still want to fill it out, that would be great. I'm going to leave it linked in our link tree, and it'll be for sure on the episode descriptions for episode 92, That Girl, and episode 93, Down to Eartha.
Nice.
If you want to go fill it out.
All right.
thanks.
Am I still doing the speech? Okay. I was like, you said case thanks, and that's usually when we say bye. So I was like, Well, if you enjoyed this, you can find us on social media where we are Well I Laughed Podcast.
And please rate us wherever you listen to your podcast.
Yeah, that'd be dope. You can also watch us on YouTube if you would like to visually see what the studio looks like. If you're looking for additional content, you can find us on Patreon, where we produce a smaller extra episode every week. If you have stories you'd like to hear during our listener episodes, you can email those to wellilaughdpod@gmail.com. And if you're looking for the perfect gift for the perfect person, you know, the kind of person that listens to Well I Laughed, you can find us on Cameo. Until then, friends.
Bye.
Okay, thanks. Bye.